I want to talk about patriarchy and matriarchy in a way that people don't really get a chance to talk about, because in the beginning, power did not dominate, right? Like, people think that patriarchy is the root, not necessarily, right? Time moved like blood, not like clocks. Right, truth was buried in soil and song, not sword, and the earth was mother, but not your possession. And God had no face, just presence. Matriarchy is what happens when life arranges itself around renewal, right? Not control, not command, not war, but rest, right? Descent, cycle, return. The body was not shameful, the womb was not weakness, the elder was not disposable, and the boy was brought down to the earth to feel. But here's the thing, the sky broke, right? It could be a drought, it could be hunger. But either way, the womb is closed. The rain stopped singing, and the men who have never descended panicked. They had no ritual to hold collapse, so they chose control instead, and thus patriarchy was born not from men's strength, it was born from their unprocessed grief. And see, this is how you end up with the rise of what I would call the wound king, right? They cut down the trees that held memory. They burned the temples where women sang time. They rewrote gods into fathers, rewrote rhythms into law, rewrote pain into punishment. They made the earth a battlefield. Matriarchy's flaw is that it trusted. Patriarchy's flaw is that it could not grieve. Right? That's its biggest flaw about patriarchy. And men chose the myth because they were never given the memory. So a boy without descent, right, a descent right, becomes a soldier or a king or a god or a monster. Without myth that descends, that actually brings a man down to humility, masculinity floats above the earth and it needs conquest to feel grounded. So men built systems that never feel collapse, that never feel the collapse again. That's the whole point of these systems, to never feel collapse again. Empire, theology, ownership, order. They crowned the father not to honor him, but to avoid the memory of the mother, because her voice would have required them to feel again. This is why patriarchy went worldwide. I want y'all to stay with this, right? Because the world broke and patriarchy promised that if we obeyed, the rain would come back, and it didn't. Right? But the system stayed. And it fed itself on the brokenness it created. It spread not like truth, but like mold after a fire. It invaded temples, it silenced drummers, it made grief illegal, and it made control, and it named control as love, and it globalized the wound. But here's the thing, right? Matriarchy returns like a spring, but she doesn't conquer. She composts. She outlives. She waits. See, when the system fails again, she'll replant herself in the ashes. She sings again through the throats of her daughters and finally sons. She doesn't punish, she invites return. See, here's the thing. It all goes the same way because these systems overtake each other. They're climate related. When a matriarchy encounters a lack of, is born in abundance and encounters a lack of abundance, in that terror, men descend. That's literally what happens. And if you don't raise boys in descent, we're going to cover what that means, then they're not going to be able to form right. It always starts like this. Life as rhythm, like ritual and myth. Collapse of order of climate, right? Either one, collapse of order or climate. Uninitiated masculine control always comes after that. After a collapse of climate or order, that's what happens after that. Then you get expansion, colonization, and export, because you export that system out. Empire logic. I'm going to put the whole chart up here just so y'all can see it. And then sacred memory reawakens. Matriarchy happens again. It's not a battle, it's a breathing system. And it's stuck because men were never shown how to exhale. Men are not evil. I want to get that. They are echoes. We are echoes trapped in armor that used to be ritual. And without memory, they will keep choosing control to avoid descent and keep building gods who look like themselves because they've never been shown the face of silence. They've never seen it, right? So here's the truth. To heal the earth, men must die differently, not through violence, through descent, through ritual silence, through emotional initiation, through sacred failure, through myth that brings them downward, not upward, and then rejoining the hearth, not from ruling above it. And then here's the thing. I'm gonna leave it here. Patriarchy is the aftershock of an ungrieved collapse. That is what it is at its fundamental core. Patriarchy is the aftershock of an ungrieved collapse. Matriarchy is the memory of wholeness trying to regrow. We're caught in the fracture, spinning the myth from pain and praying the rain returns. But the womb and the womb were never enemies. The womb just forgot how to kneel. That's all it is. And now it's time for us to remember what power feels like when it isn't afraid to fall. Right? That's all it is. So hopefully this gave you a better perspective on what patriarchy is. Because a lot of times we say it's patriarchy, but we don't know what to do. This is what it is.